everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinars. My name is Oksana and I'm Education USA advisor. And just to remind you that Education USA is a Department of State network that works in more than 175 countries. If you are interested in our events, Education USA Virtual, you can scan the QR code on the screen and join our webinars and other programs. Today, I'm glad to welcome you and present the nice session and webinar on the future of student writing, summary, response, and reflection. And our guest today is Lance, Director of ESL at Troy University. We're going to have a practical session on supporting international students and ESL students, of course, in developing key academic writing skills. Today, you will have the chance to learn how summary, response, and reflect writing can boost critical thinking, engagement, and of course, success in US classrooms, along with other strategies to address common challenges. If you have any questions, you are welcome to write them in the chat and we will respond them at the end of the webinar. Thanks once again, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Oksana. My name is Lance Noe, and I am the director of the English language program at Troy University in Troy, Alabama. And we're going to be talking about how writing has changed for the classroom here in the United States. These ideas are pretty universal right now. We'll talk about why they are universal. But you'll probably see these changes affecting your school in the United States, Canada, Australia, and England. So despite where you go for your education, you're probably going to start seeing these changes. So an introduction, we'll do the introduction. We'll talk a little bit about traditional writing styles, why we are changing the writing style, and then we're going to go through each one of them: summary, response, and reflection. If you have questions, you can put those in the chat and I will try to get to them. There is a bit of a delay, so I may move on and then come back when the question shows up. I love questions, and I'm going to have some questions for you as well. And I want to let you know that at the end of the presentation, I will provide a link with all of my worksheets, rubrics, and this presentation, so you will have practice. Okay, awesome. Well, let's get started. First, wow, he's so handsome. That is me. I am the ESL Programs Director, and I have been teaching ESL since maybe before you were born. I started in 2001, and I'm still teaching till today. I taught English in Korea, Japan, China, Australia, Turkey, and here in the United States. And my hobbies are cooking, traveling. I've been to 67 countries, so chances are I have been to your country. And I love to attend YouTube University, which just means I like to watch TV. All right, so let's get started. We are going to talk about traditional writing styles. You're probably very familiar with this. This is the 5-paragraph essay, or sometimes it's a research paper. You know, you have your introduction, you have your 3-body paragraphs, and then you have your conclusion. Pretty standard writing style, still used for TOEFL and IELTS and other English proficiency tests. But here in the United States, we are really moving away from that. You used to have at least 3 a semester, and now you only have 1. And to be honest, most classes are actually moving away from it totally. So there are classes that still do the essay. You know, some teachers, they don't want to change. But for the most part, we're really moving away from that 5-paragraph essay style and research papers. There's also something called short answer questions. Did you know that there was a style for this? Because there is a style for short answer questions. And we'll talk about that very briefly. So for short answers, you want to repeat the question. you want to give the relevant information, and then you want to give an example. So here it says, why do some people think the spread of English is a good thing? Explain and give examples. So some people think the spread of English is a good thing. So there I'm repeating the question asked. Because English has an expansive vocabulary and is a neutral, business-like language. So that's my explanation. And then the next part is my example. The lecturer stated that India has many different languages, so they decided to use English so that everyone is equal. So yeah, that is the short answer style. And here in the United States, most teachers expect you to kind of know this style. Many times the teacher cannot see the question you're answering and because it's on a computer now, and sometimes the question doesn't come up. So it's always good to repeat the question, give your answer, and then give an example. And it's a short answer, so your answer should be short. So make sure you're not writing me a book. Okay? All right, so that's the traditional style. And the question is, well, why are we moving away from that? And the answer is AI. So I use ChatGPT. With my work, I have used ChatGPT when I was writing my dissertation to help me with structure, never to write my paper, but to help me with structure or to help me understand ideas more. So there's good use of ChatGPT. Unfortunately, most students are not using it that way. And even some teachers are not using it that way. But that is why there is a change. So many teachers don't trust that students have written the paper. It's also for academic integrity. We as teachers, as universities, we want to have academic integrity. So we want to make sure that what we're grading was graded by us, that we did not put it through AI to grade it for us, but also that you're using academic integrity and that this writing is your writing. And we can tell when it's not your writing, when suddenly the vocabulary changes or the sentence structure changes, we're like, that does not sound like this student. And so it's pretty easy for us to tell if you've used AI or you've not, especially for international students. And then the big reason is plagiarism. We just don't want you to plagiarize. Some students don't know this, but in the United States, we think that if you use a translator, if you get your phone and you're like, blah, 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 in your language, and you translate it into English and then you cut and paste the English, that is actually plagiarism. You think those are your words, but they're not your words in English. They're the computer's words. So that is actually considered plagiarism. So be sure that you're actually writing and thinking and doing in English. Okay. All right. So that's the background. And now we're going to talk about like the actual new style of writing. So if I'm going too fast, please tell me in the chat, slow down, or you can ask questions. All right. So we're going to talk about summary writing. And this is my campus. This is our main campus. You can see we have a Trojan statue. So you'll see a few pictures of our campus while we go through. So summaries. So a summary is 3 to 5 sentences long. It does not matter how long the story is. So if your story is this long, it's 3 to 5 sentences. If your story is this long, it's 3 to 5 sentences. If your story is, I dropped some coins. If your story is this long, it's 3 to 5 sentences. So it doesn't matter how long the story is, the summary still is 3 to 5 sentences. And you make it longer through grammar. So using compound complex sentences. And a summary only has the main ideas and the major details. It has definitions or explanations. Sometimes it has dates. Sometimes it has names. But you have to decide if those dates and names are important to the main idea. And it has to be in your own words. You cannot copy the words from the original source. So all of these have to be in your own writing and your words. So that's very important. So we're going to look at some summaries and some examples. And again, this is all in the folder that I'm going to share with you. So you'll have all of this. So a summary is like an outline with sentences. So A, B, C, D. And then you put it into a paragraph. You're only giving me the main idea and the major details. So that means you have to think about what is important and what is not important. What is the main idea of this? And you have to write it in your own words. I know that's hard. Trust me, I speak English, and even it's hard for me because many times the writer uses the best words. So you're like, how do I change this? So yeah, summary takes practice. And American students have been writing summaries when they get to college at least 4 to 6 years. So they have a lot of practice in writing summaries. So everyone knows Romeo and Juliet, I believe. Everybody knows this story, right? So I wrote a summary based on Romeo and Juliet, and this is what it looks like. And then we're going to talk about each part. So in Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, he writes or dramatizes, we'll talk about those in just a second, how Romeo and Juliet met at a party and fall in love, even though their families are enemies. So that's the main idea of that whole story. That play is 2 hours long, and it's about these two people who meet, fall in love, and their families hate each other. They decide to run away together and get married. Juliet fakes her own death using poison, but Romeo thinks it is real and kills himself. When Juliet awakens, she sees Romeo is dead and stabs herself and dies. Their families cry and become friends. That's the story of Romeo and Juliet. So we'll talk about some things that are not here and some things that are here. So let's go back to that first sentence. That first sentence needs 4 things. It needs the title, it needs the author, it needs a reporting verb, and it needs the main idea. That reporting verb is the hard part because a reporting verb tells you what kind of writing or what kind of article it was. Was it descriptive? Was it informative? Was it persuasive? In this example, Romeo and Juliet is a play, so I use the word dramatize. That's the verb form of drama. So you can also use writes, but writes is a less academic word. Dramatizes is a much more academic word and is therefore more interesting. All right, so let's talk about each part of that and why I chose things and why I didn't choose things. So I only did the main ideas. The story is about Romeo and Juliet. Their name is in the title. So everything in my summary should focus only on Romeo and Juliet. Ooh, someone asked, what does enemy mean? Great question. Enemy means someone that is against you, someone you're not friends with. It is the opposite of friend. So maybe there's someone that you don't like and you're always fighting. They are your enemy. Maybe homework is your enemy. So yeah, your enemy is someone that's not your friend, that's against you. Okay, great question. I love it. So everything in the story is about Romeo and Juliet. So that's what I wrote about. Now, their parents are important because they are why they have to hide their love. If their families were friends, no problem. They could just be like, oh, I love Romeo. But because their families are enemies, they cannot. How they died is important because that's how the story ends. Many students in their summary forget to add the ending of the story. Every time I'm like, how does the story end? So make sure you use the ending. Some things that I did not use, things that are missing, is how many other people died. 4 other people die in that story. They're not important. I don't have to tell you where it happened, in Verona. It's not important to the story, to my summary. I don't tell you anything about the other characters. There are 20 other characters in this story, and I don't talk about them because they are not Romeo and Juliet. I don't talk about why they fake their death. It's not important. Just they died is important. And then the structure, that author, title, reporting verb, and main idea has to be there. So let's talk about those sections. So here are some reporting verbs. And again, I'm going to share this with you so you don't have to take notes. But you have to think about what kind of story is this? Is it an argument? Is it a theory? Is it a description? Is it just information? But I want you to notice that in one of the words has a line through it. The word say has a line through it. And that is because you are reading something that is written. The author does not say anything. He did not talk to you. The author did not talk about. He didn't talk to you. The author doesn't tell. He didn't talk to you. So the author does not say, the author does not talk about, and the author does not tell. Those are verbal. Those are speaking. So please don't write those. Also, remark, I put through a line through because, again, they didn't talk to you. So the author wrote, the author stated, the author described, the author defined, the author illustrated. All of these words will tell you, me, the reader of your summary, what kind of writing you read. And that's a very important thing. And you have to practice that. Like, you really have to think, what kind of writing is this? So that reporting verb does a lot of work. All right. I'm happy to come back and answer any questions about the reporting verb, but we're going to move to the next section. I think I just answered what does reporting verb mean. That came up in the chat. But if you still need more explanation, you can ask again, and I'm happy to tell. So your introduction sentence, there are many styles to write this, but please don't use according to. I know that's going to be surprising. A lot of students are surprised by that. But when you started learning English, you learned table, chair, desk, ABCs, 1, 2, 3, colors. Well, according to is sort of like that. It's the beginning writing. It's to start. But once you know how to write, there are better ways to write your sentence than according to. So according to is fine if you're a beginning writer, but once you start writing, there are other ways to do it. And here are 4 styles. So you can say in the title, the author, the reporting verb, and the main idea. That's what I used in my summary. In Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare dramatized the story of Romeo and Juliet. We have a question. Can I convey my own personal perspective in the summary? No, you cannot. A summary is only what you read, but reflection is where you give your personal perspective. So we're going to talk about those. That's a great question. Yeah. So a summary just tells what you read. We often use the summary to go back to remember what we read. So the summary is not for the teacher. The summary is for you, because in the United States and many countries, we will have you read something, and then maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, you will have the test. And so maybe you've forgotten what you read about. So you're going to use that summary to remind yourself about that story. But here are a couple of choices. I tell my students to look at these 4 choices. Number 5 is really hard. Even I have a problem. I have difficulty with number 5. So pick 1 through 4. Pick a style that you like and just use that style. That's what I tell my students. Instead of according to, you can use one of these 4 styles. You can also try to change the style. You don't want to always, if you're writing a big paper and you're summarizing many different things, then you want to mix it up. But if it's just one summary, pick a style that you like and stick with that style. Use that style over and over so it gives you practice. And it breaks you from according to. So, yeah, I know students are always surprised when I'm like, don't use according to. Yeah. But again, this paper will be in the file that I share, so you will have that for practice. All right. So now we're going to move from summary to response. Now, the person who asked about personal perspective, this is when you're going to start using your personal perspective. So a response and summary go together very often. The teacher will ask you to summarize and respond to the reading. So the summary is just the facts. These are the facts of the story that I read. The response is your personal ideas about what you read. It is your opinion. So here's a very textbook idea of response. A response is a critique. That means you're criticizing, you're talking about, Luke, I like this, I don't like that. Or evaluation. You're saying, oh, the author said this, but I don't agree, or I do agree, and here's why. Unlike the summary, it is composed of your opinions. So this is all your opinion. And it examines ideas that you agree and disagree with and identifies the essay's strengths and its weaknesses. And you have to do that logically. And you're going to use support. You're going to cite facts. You're going to give examples from the reading. And then you're going to relate your personal experience to those ideas to either support or go against. The word refute, here we have this word refute. Refute means to go against, to not agree. Okay? And we're going to look at an example. So here is the summary. A Mile High Home by Douglas Peters describes Denver, Colorado as the ideal city for raising a family. So again, I use that structure. I use title, author, reporting verb, main idea. And the reporting verb I used is describe, because that's what it was. It was just a description of the city. The article points out that the city has good outdoor recreation, good jobs, and good schools, all of which are important to families. It makes it seem ideal. That means perfect. And Mr. Peters appears to encourage people to move there to raise their families. So that's the main idea of the story. That is the summary and the main ideas. Next, we're going to look at the response. And you'll notice that the response is longer than the summary, and that's because you're supporting and not supporting the ideas from the story. So it starts with I. The very first word is I because it's my opinion. I agree with the author because I like Denver and lived there most of my life. So you're showing that you have a connection to this story. In fact, I do all the things listed in the article. I have a ski pass for the winter, and I try to go mountain biking every weekend. Of course, I cheer for the home team, and I am an avid Broncos football fan. Broncos is the football team in Denver. I am also a graduate of the schools there and now work as a realtor, and that means they sell houses in the downtown area. So they're saying, the article mentioned skiing, the article mentioned mountain biking, the article mentioned Broncos, and I do those things. So you're creating a personal relationship with what you read. But the next word is very important, and that word is however. So that word means the opposite. It's always good in a response. If you have an opinion that's not the same as what you read, that's really important to include. Many times, students do not agree with what they read, and that's perfect. It's okay to disagree. In fact, it's pretty good to disagree, but you have to support your idea. So let's see if they support their idea. It says, however, I do disagree with the author when he stated that although housing is affordable for most, Denver is a very expensive city to live in, and most people cannot afford a house and therefore must rent. So they are saying that the author said this, but I do not agree with this. And they say what the author said and why they don't agree. I can definitely say that despite the housing, Denver is a great place for families. So they finished with their main idea, which is Denver is a good place for families. And that's what the author said. But in the middle, it's like a sandwich. I think you've probably heard of this. You have bread, and then you have the meat. You want to put your opposition, your opinion that's not the same as the reading in the middle, just like this author did. And that way we know as the teacher that you really read the story, and we also know that you have your own opinions. If you agree with everything, that's also okay, but you need to tell me why you agree. And sometimes that's difficult for students because maybe they just like, yeah, I agree. You will also see this type of writing on the IELTS and the TOEFL. They often ask you like, which do you prefer, city life or country life? And you have to pick one and support your answer. So that's sort of a response style writing as well. All right. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, just put your question here. And again, I have some more examples and more styles in the folder that I will be sharing with you. So why would your teacher want you to use this style of writing? Well, first, we want to see, did you actually read the story? Sometimes students will tell us they read the story, but there's no way for us to know if we don't check. So this is a way for the teacher to see, did you read the reading and did you understand the reading? We also want your POV. That means point of view. And that's just a big way to say your opinion. We want to know if you agree or disagree with the writing and if you can say your opinion. And this is really difficult for ChatGPT to do. ChatGPT is not good at responses. It is okay at summary, but it often gets the style wrong. So as your teacher, I will know if you use ChatGPT because the style will be wrong. But writing a response is very difficult for ChatGPT because it doesn't have a personal opinion. Can I lie about my experience? We have a question. Sorry, I just saw it. We have a question. Can I lie about my experience writing a response to better support my ideas and create personal connection with what I read? You, as your teacher, no. Because if you lie, and I, as your teacher, really like that idea, and in class, I'm like, oh, tell me more about blah, blah, blah. And you're like, then I know you lied. So it's okay to say, oh, the story was about visiting, the story was about tourism, but I have never left my country. You can say that, be like, oh, I guess I agree with the writer, but I don't have personal experience with that, so I'm not sure. But I would not encourage a student to lie or to tell me something they think I want to know. That is not the reason for a response. That's a great question. And it's a question that students often ask me because many students don't have an opinion about what they read. And that's okay to say. You can say, like, I read this story, but actually I don't have a strong opinion about this or that. But then what you want to do is you want to say, in the story, the author said this. I don't know if I agree or disagree because I don't have an opinion. But you want to show that you read it. You want to use quotations from or ideas from the story to show that you actually read the story and understand, but you just don't have an opinion about that. But you need to be careful. If every response is, I don't have an opinion, I don't have an opinion, then the teacher is going to think that you're lazy. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's the truth. The teacher is going to think that you are just not participating and you're taking the easy way out. But there are many times when I read a story and I don't have an opinion about it. But I have to support my no opinion. The other reason that teachers are, does that answer your question? I hope so. If not, you can ask me another question, or you can be like, can you explain this? And I'm happy to do that. No problems. But another reason why we do this as teachers is we want an active class. We don't want a passive class. We want to talk. In the United States, it is very normal, it is very common to argue with your teacher. It is very normal and common for the teacher to give an idea and for students to be like, I don't agree with that. I don't know, that's wrong. And for you and the teacher to have some back and forth. Now, that is not true for every country, but in the United States, that's very, very normal. So if you don't have an opinion, you cannot be in the classroom, really. We want you to be active. We don't want you to just sit there and listen. This is something many students do not know. They think that if they read the story, they take the test, they're going to pass. In the United States, about 70% of the test is based on the discussion that happens in class. And only about 30% of the test is from the homework. So 70% of the test is what you talk about in class and the arguments that you have in class. So you have to make sure that when class is having a discussion that you're still taking notes, because that's going to be on the test. So a lot of students are very surprised when they come to America and they get a test, and the test has discussion questions on it. They're like, but that wasn't in the that was not in the reading. And the teacher's like, yeah, we talked about it in class. So many teachers see the reading as outside and the discussion as inside the class. I'm going to drink some coffee and read your question. I've been talking a lot. I hope that my English is at the right level, but if it's not, if I'm too fast or too slow or my vocabulary is not good, please tell me. I am not here for myself. I am here for you. Okay, we have some questions. So supporting my have no opinion, I like that. Great. Yeah, it's okay to not have an opinion. Sometimes we don't have an opinion. I read a story yesterday and I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you for this information, but I don't know what I do with this. And that is okay. POV, could you repeat, please? Sure. POV is point of view. And that just means my opinion, what I see. So your view, your point of view is what you see, what you think. It is just a nice word for opinion. Okay, this is how I see it. So many of you are from different countries, and different countries have different opinions about the same topic. So as an American, I'm going to have a different point of view or opinion about a subject than you will. And it's great. It's actually a really good idea. If you read something and this is not something that happens in your country, that's great. Be like, oh, this is the first time I've thought about this because in my country, this does not happen. That's your opinion. That is also supporting. The teacher, the author wrote, this, but in my country, that doesn't happen. We do this, but give the example. Explain your opinion. Okay? We're almost out of time, and I want to get to reflection, but I'm always happy to answer any questions, but we are going to move on from this. So summary and response typically go together. You summarize the story, and then you give your opinion about the story. And right now in the United States, in one semester, most teachers are giving about 12 to 15 summary and responses. It's a lot. So you're going to write those a lot. And they should not be long, maybe 1 page total. Summary at the top, response in the bottom. It's 1 page. So it's not a book. It's not a lot of writing, but you do them often. And often online outside of class. You typically do not write these in class, but sometimes, but because of ChatGPT, we are writing more and more and more in class. So here is a brief idea of the difference between a response and a reflection. So we're going to talk about reflective writing next. So reflective writing, that's our next topic. It focuses on your personal experience and your insight. Insight is just a big word for your thoughts, your ideas, your knowledge. It encourages self-examination. So you're going to think about yourself, critical thinking about an event or a learning experience. Often structured around questions like, what did I learn? How did I feel? And these are common after a big project or a big event, a task, a report, or a paper. So this is your reflection on how you did for something. If you're in the sciences, you're going to do an experiment, and the teacher is going to ask you to reflect on that. How did the experiment go? Was it good? Was it bad? What was good? What was bad? What did you learn? What did you not learn? Okay, we have some questions coming in. Okay. And then a response involves reacting to a text or artwork or event, analyzing and interpreting the material, and it often incorporates your personal opinions. So what is the argument? How does this relate to my experience? And this is often done to writing, literature, or discussions, not an event that you did. Reflective is about something you did. So you gave a presentation, or you did an experiment, or you did an event. Then we're going to talk about reflective writing. That's when we'd use that. And that is to think about the good and the bad, the difficult, the interesting things that happened, and what you learned from this thing. So your honest opinions should be expressed. Again, you don't want to lie. You want to tell us your honest opinion. Oh, I hit the button. Sorry. Do not write what you think I want to read. Please don't tell me what you think I want to know. I want to know the honest opinion. What really happened? What did you think? And you need to give examples and support for your opinions. Okay? So we're going to talk about this in a second, but we had some questions come in. We've got reminders. If you have questions, put them in the chat. And then we've got, okay, someone understood something. Awesome. Lance, you are me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, wait, I know you. Hi, how are you? So that's awesome. Hello, Azerbaijan. Could you tell me, what does incorporate mean? Absolutely, I would love to. Incorporate means to put together. So you take this part, and you incorporate them. You put them together. So corporate sounds like corporation, right? It's a company. There's this part, there's this part, there's this part of the company, and you put them together. That's a corporate. So incorporate means to put them inside of each other, to put them together. Does that make sense? I don't want to say your name wrong, but I think it's Dogukan. Did that help answer that question? And I am good. Are you good? I am good. I'm happy to be here. I'm teaching, and I love to teach. It's my favorite thing. So we're going to look at a project that I gave to my students. They had they had about 4 weeks to do a project. And at the end of that project, the project included interviews, surveys, and then finally a presentation showing the results. So here are some questions that I asked, and they had to write about it. And their paper was 1,000 words, so it was a long paper. And these are not in order, but how did you feel when the project began and finished? What was the hardest part? What was the least hard part? How did you feel working with other people? So these are just examples of questions that you should answer in your reflective writing. So again, a reflective writing is after an event or a project or something big. And we want to know how you felt about it. Summary and response is for literature or lectures, and reflection is something you did, not something someone gave you. A reflective writing is after you did something, a survey or a presentation or a lab or something like that. Okay. And that is really the end of this. This is my email. Again, my name is Lance Noe, and my email is very simple. It's lnoe@troy.edu. And Troy University is in Troy, Alabama. And we have an ESL program that will tell you and teach you how to do this type of writing before you go to academic classes. And we also have undergrad and grad, and we would love to have you on our campus. And I'm happy to answer any questions that came in, Oksana, or clarify anything that I talked about. So please ask
Thank you
ask
so
any
much, Lance.
questions.
That was really helpful. As ESL students, we always struggle, I think, with writing. So these tips are very useful for our students. We have some questions, and the first one you can see on the screen: how to improve student creativity in writing.
How? Oh, I just sent you the link also in the private chat, if you could put that in the chat room. How to improve student creativity in writing. Oh, this is a question I get asked a lot. So the first thing that I would do if I were a student or a teacher is to look at descriptive adjectives. So descriptive adjectives really help your writing, and they get you to think about what you have read. So the biggest difference, the only difference between my English and your English is vocabulary. That's it. My speaking is no better than your speaking. My listening is no better than your listening. The only difference is I have vocabulary. So if you want to study English, if you want to improve your English, the best way to do that is to increase your vocabulary. This is something that we focus on in my program. Every level has a vocabulary class because vocabulary is the most important skill for speaking and writing. So that's what I would do. Once you have that vocabulary, then you can express yourself more clearly and more creatively in your writing. That's a great question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have a few more. And the next question, could we please have it on the screen as well?
It's very early in the morning. I need coffee. So
That's fine. So what are some good writing tips for personal statement, if there are any?
well, Oksana may be able to give you a link to a presentation that I gave 2 months ago about this topic. So I'm sure that Oksana can help you, but very quickly, I will tell you this. In your personal statement, please do not focus on your grades. Everyone has good grades. If you're trying to come to the United States, you must have good grades because the visa people, the embassy people, they're going to look at your transcripts. The school is going to look at your transcripts. Please don't focus on your grades. What we want to know is you. What are you going to bring to our school? What are you going to bring to us? So talk about your hobbies. Talk about the things you do after school. Talk about the things that make you special. So you have seen our president. He is all about himself. He is like, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, I am amazing. unfortunately, that is America. And we want that in your writing. We want to know what makes you special, what makes you interesting. Your first sentence should be, hello, my name is, and I am from wherever you are from. And you want to repeat that 5 times. So my friend is from Azerbaijan, so I'm going to use him as an example. So hello, my name is, and I am from Azerbaijan. And then you want to say Azerbaijan, 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 Azerbaijan 5 times. The reason for that is because sometimes a computer will read your essay, but if a human reads your essay, they're going to be like, Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan. Oh, Azerbaijan. Oh, this student's from Azerbaijan. We don't have an Azerbaijani student. Let's get this student. So never hide where you're from. That is an asset because you're going to diversify the program. You're going to make it different and special. There's a question. Is there a law school at Troy University? I'd love to have a teacher like Lance for at least one subject. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. We are not a law school in the United States. Everyone does their undergrad, and that's for 4 years, and your major will be political science. And then you have to transfer to a law school. So in America, the universities are not a law school. You have to transfer to a law school when you're finished with your undergrad. And depending on what type of lawyer you want to be, that can be 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years after. So, yeah. Yeah, law school and medical school, if you in the United States, is not a school. It's separate. You have to do your undergrad, then you go to that school. We have another question about math. Oh, no. Oh, math. I'm interested in both math and writing. How can reflection or response writing be useful for STEM students too? Great question. So in STEM classes, you're going to have lab. So that's where you take the theory that you learned, the math theory or the science theory, and you're actually going to practice it. You're going to do it. You're going to go to a lab and you're going to experiment with it. Here in Alabama, at the top of our state is NASA, and we have a very good relationship with NASA, and we have internships with them. So when you get an internship with NASA, you're going to experiment. You're going to try things. Then you have to write a reflective writing about that. And also you're going to have, you're going to say, this worked well, this did not work well. But your response is you're going to hear a lecture from the investigator or from the trainer, and you're going to have to respond, oh, he said this, I never thought about that before. Maybe I can put that in my... So yeah, you're going to use a lot of reflective and response for STEM classes. And Aldous, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong. Aldous, you can always come to study English with me. So you can come for a semester to study English. And if you come through Education USA, if you go to an Education USA office and they help you with your application or they help you with your paperwork, then we can provide you with a scholarship to come and study English. So, but only if you come through Education USA.
Yeah, so, you can always refer to Education USA Center in your country if you have any questions. And all our services are free of charge. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please refer to the Education USA website, and you can find your center there as well. So we have one more question: how we can check the direction of our essays?
So, yeah, great question. So I would say after you write, think about your thesis statement, think about the main idea of your essay. Is everything you talk about in response to that idea? Everything should be about that idea. So you have your thesis statement, and then you have each topic, making sure that everything you write goes to that topic. But also don't repeat yourself. You have to check. Many students repeat themselves over and over and over. So make sure that you're not saying the same thing over and over again. So many students get, they only look at how many numbers of words they've used, but they're not thinking about the ideas. So making sure that you're focused and you're not repeating yourself. So that's how I would check.
Thank you so much. I think that this is all for now. We don't have more questions, but dear students and participants of this webinar, if you have any questions, please refer to Education USA Center, and we will be glad to help you. Right now on the screen, you can see a QR code, and we would like to hear your opinion and your thoughts. So this is just a quick survey, no more than 2 minutes, but it will help us to make our webinars better. So thank you so much, Lance. It was a really helpful and wonderful presentation. Dear participants, we'll be glad to see you on our next streams. Don't forget about our next webinar next week on August 26th, and we are going to talk about TOEFL and new tips for your future exams. Thank you so much, and see you.
And don't forget, we have the link to the presentation and all the worksheets so you can practice at home.
Yeah.
You can always email me if you have questions about your writing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.